All right, got a little Hatha yoga routine for you today. Go ahead and find your place on your mat, lying down. If this is comfortable for you, you can always bend your knees and place your feet on the floor and let your knees just kind of fall in towards each other. I'm going to place one hand on our chest, one hand on our belly button. I really want you to think about breathing into the belly. Notice my hand rise that's on my belly. I want you to try to do that. Excuse me, just breathing in all the way down to the belly button, letting the belly expand and fall. Not hurrying our breath or necessarily trying to slow it down. You can if you like. The deeper we breathe, the more we elicit that relaxation response in our body. And we'll just place our arms by our side now, palms up or palms down. Just notice how we feel. Notice any areas of tension or tightness. Just let it go. Maybe set an intention for our practice today. Or maybe just enjoy the stillness for a few moments. Now let's inhale our arms overhead. Get a nice side stretch. Just reach. I'm going to pull out my blanket from underneath my head. I'm going to gently grasp one wrist with the opposite hand and gently pull over to that side, and then change arms. Just getting a nice stretch through the sides of the body. Interlacing the fingers, and then just let the finger palms open up overhead. A nice lengthening to the spine and the body. And then exhale the arms down. Notice how you feel after that. Breathe. Just savor the feeling. Slowly bring both knees into the chest. Just hug them in gently, no forcing, pushing. Gently rock side to side, massaging the lower back. Always feels good. Use the arms for support. And circle the knees one direction. You can open up the knees, gently circle. Externally or outwardly, inwardly. Just whatever feels good, opening up the hips. Placing the left foot on the floor, just hug the right knee in. You can extend that left leg if that feels better on the lower back. Slowly circle the right foot. Get a stretch in the ankle. Maybe shift the right knee from side to side. Again, just opening up those hips a little more. Some of those circles again, if that feels good. Hug it in. Gently place that right foot on the floor and slowly hug that left knee into the chest. Keeping that left leg bent, right leg bent or extended. And slowly circle the left ankle, foot. And rock the left leg side to side. That feels good. Circle. Just repeating what we did on the right leg. Hug the left knee in, left foot back to the floor. Just notice how you feel, how your hips feel, lower back feels after that. Breathe. We're going to shift a little over to the left. Clasp our fingers behind our head. Bring both knees to the chest and just slowly lower both knees, both legs to the right. Rooting and grounding that left shoulder, left elbow, keeping the chest open for a nice little spinal rotation. Breathe, and just let it go here. You can take the hands out from behind the head and just let them relax on the floor. Cactus arms are just in a 45-degree angle. And also, I didn't show it here, but you can place a block in between your knees if that feels better on your lower back. Just relax into this wonderful rotation. Now I'm extending the left leg, the top leg, for a little stretch through the outer hip and outer thigh. And then slowly bring the left knee back, the right knee back. We're going to repeat on the other side. So you can leave your hands out by your side or clasp them behind your head again. Slowly lower the legs to the left, with the knees bent, feet together. You can release the arms out to your side, and an option placing that block between the knees. That feels better on your lower back. And that optional extending the top leg for a little outer hip stretch. And you can do that with the block in between as well. Breathe. Notice how you feel. That right shoulder rooted and grounded, chest open. With the chin maybe slightly. And then bring that right knee back with the left. Right knee back to center, left knee back to center. Both feet on the floor. Notice how you feel. Arms by your side. Arms relaxed, palms up. Breathe. I'm going to cross that right shin over the left thigh for a hip stretch or a figure four. Reach in between the legs, interlace the fingers behind the left thigh, draw both knees towards the chest. Breathe. And gently pull the knees towards the chest and rock back and forth gently, bringing some movement into this stretch. Your best guide is your body, so listen to your body. It's telling you I'd like to move a little bit in this stretch. Go ahead and move. A little more intensity. Do that. Your body's your best guide. Just listen to it. That's all we have to do. Just listen to it. Release the stretch, left foot to the floor, uncross the right. We'll do the same thing on the other side, crossing the left shin over the right thigh, reaching through the middle, interlacing the fingers behind the right thigh, and gently drawing both legs towards the chest. And then again, rocking gently side to side if that feels good. Maybe hugging the knees in a little closer to the chest for greater intensity on the stretch. So whatever feels good. So we're breathing. Always breathing, right? Right foot back to the floor, left foot back to the floor, knees bent, arms relaxed by our side. How do you feel? Excuse me. How do your hips feel? How does your body feel after that stretch? We're going to do a little abdominal toning. So we're going to place our hands, interlace fingers behind our head. We're going to bring our knees up in the air towards the chest. Then we're going to bring our right elbow towards our left knee, hold for a moment. The left elbow towards our right knee, hold for a moment. Do that a couple more times, and then we're going to bicycle about 10, 12 times. So we'll extend the right leg as the left elbow comes towards it in a crunch, bicycle crunch, and then right elbow towards that left knee, just alternating left and right. Take your time here. Really focus on the abdominals, gently pressing the lower back into the floor, engaging the pelvic floor muscles as well. Just a little abdominal toning. And pulling that navel in towards the spine the whole time. Now release, feet back to the floor, arms by our side, and then we're going to go into something called boat pose. And you've got a lot of options here, because this is a little bit more intermediate, a little more difficult pose. Just sit up or come to a sitting position. Kind of rock up like I do. And then we're going to balance on our tailbone. So really important here to protect the lower back. You want to keep the back nice and lengthened. I don't want to stay straight because our spine is not straight, but lengthen the spine, open the chest, shoulders down and back, and then the legs are going to extend up. You're going to lift the legs off the floor, keep the knees bent, and then place your hands on the floor by your side somewhere for support. Or optional, extend your arms straight out from the chest with the knees bent or legs extended. So find your pose. Find what works for you. You can always just keep one foot on the floor and extend another leg and then switch at some point. Anytime you feel discomfort in your lower back, go ahead and sit up and release the pose, because you don't want to feel this in your lower back. And feet back to the floor. Maybe grasp behind the knees, pull up a little bit, lengthen the spine, and then feet together, open up the knees for a nice little inner thigh stretch. Again, I'm sitting up nice and tall, lengthening the spine from the tailbone to the crown of the head. You can place your hands behind your hips with the fingertips pointing out or to your side or towards your body, whatever feels better on the wrists. And use your hands to kind of move up towards your heels. Move your body towards your heels to feel a little bit deeper stretch in the inner thighs if you need, if you like. The closer your heels are into your pelvis, the more you're going to feel this stretch in your inner thigh. The further your heels are out, the more you'll feel it in the outer legs and outer thigh. I'm just doing a little pumping here of the knees. I'm going to grab my blanket, which I would too, especially if you have tight hamstrings. It just keeps your lower back in a nice little natural anterior tilt here. And continuing with that stretch. And then we're going to go into a seated spinal rotation. So we're going to cross our right leg over our left leg. And then bring our left arm around the right knee or in front of the right knee. That right hand's right next to the right hip. That's a lot of rights. Next to the right hip. And I'm using that right arm to lengthen my spine. So I'm gently pressing into the blanket or the floor to lengthen through the crown of the head. And chest open, shoulders down and away from the earlobes. And slowly rotate back to the front, uncross. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. After we get a little couple inner thigh pumps. And I started to go in the same direction here, but then I correct myself. I'm like, no. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, so now the right leg's bent. Left leg goes over the right. That left hand next to the left hip gently presses into the blanket to lengthen the spine. And then you're going to hug that left knee in with the right elbow, or you can bring that right elbow in front or on the other side of the left thigh, on the hip side, for your seated spinal rotation. On the other side. And breathe. Just notice your body, how you feel, and then slowly unwind. Extend both legs. And then back to that inner thigh stretch. Of course, we're on the edge of the blanket the whole time. Now let's extend both legs for staff pose. I need to adjust my blanket here just a little bit because it was hanging off the edge. It wasn't stacked properly. There we go. So we're going to extend both legs for staff pose. Feet are flexed. I'm going to grab my blocks. You can grab yours. It rests my arms. The spine is lengthened, so we're not rounding over, especially if you do have some lower back issues, a herniated disc, or any equipment in your lower back. Also, if you have low bone health, you want to avoid rounding your lower back. So I recommend putting your hands behind your hips and using your hands to move forward to lengthen the back of the legs, as opposed to rounding over, taking the nose to the knee or toes, which you will see often. But if you prefer, of course, you're welcome to do that. It's nose to knees pose, or head to knee pose. Loose hamstrings can help prevent lower back problems and help lower back problems, so I always try to include some kind of hamstring stretch in my yoga practice. I'm going to be breathing into the back of those legs. Let's put the blocks aside and maybe shake the legs out a little bit. Bring those feet back together in that inner thigh stretch. Slight lean forward. Pump the knees a little bit. Breathe. We're going to come to our knees. A quad position, all fours. Knees hip width apart under the hip joints, wrist shoulder width apart underneath the shoulder joints. Quad or all fours for cat and cow. Take a big breath in and then exhale, round into cat. Inhale into cow. Just do a few of these. Just loosening up the spine. Good for core strength. Exhale as you round. Inhale. as you lengthen or extend the spine. And then come to neutral spine. We'll look over that right shoulder, look over the left shoulder. I stretch the sides, maybe do that again. Look over the right, bring the right hip towards the shoulder. Look over the left, bring the left hip towards the left shoulder. Exhale, come back to neutral. Sitting back into child's pose, release that stretch. Walk the fingertips towards the top of the mat. Let the hips relax. Breathe. Back to all fours for our spinal balance. Extending the left leg behind and the right arm overhead, gently drop the left hip. You'll see where the arrow is pointed. So we want our hips even here for a spinal hip alignment. So make sure that left hip is lowered even with the right. And we're reaching. And we're going to switch sides, extending the right leg and the left arm overhead. And our spinal balance, again, we want to drop the right hip here, evening out the hips. The whole time we have our core activated. We're gently pulling that navel in towards the lower back, mid-back. And lengthening. So we're reaching. And back into child's pose. Let's take our arms to the right, shift the hips left. Breathe. Inhale, transition over to the other side, walk the hands to the left, shift the hips to the right. In child's pose. Walk the hands back to the mat, child's pose. Drop the hips. Back to all fours. Now let's go into our first downward facing dog. So we're going to lift the hips towards the sky, bend the knees, and then slowly start to pump out the heels. Right, and just alternating right and left. Not pressing our wrists, our palms, our hands into the mat. Maybe alternate, lift the right heel, get a nice stretch through the backs of the toes, lift the left heel, stretch the backs of the toes, gently pull the toes backwards. And just lifting both heels, maybe get a nice little stretch. Lower the heels towards the earth. Feel the stretch along the back of the legs. Relax the head and neck and shoulders. And breathe. Extending our right leg towards the sky. We're going to bring it all the way through. Place it on the inside of our right hand. We're going to take our blocks to either side of the right leg in a low lunge or low crescent lunge. And dropping the left knee to the earth, left shoelaces on the floor. Low lunge. Setting up for our next pose. I'm going to bring your right hip forward here in this low lunge. Left hand on that block to the left of the right leg. Reach that right arm up to the sky. And our twisted lunge, our twisted crescent lunge. Then you can lift that knee back off the mat, extend the left leg. So opening up, make sure that chest is opened up real well. You can look up towards your right hand back to the block or floor, drop the left knee, and let's change sides. Back into downward facing dog. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Maybe pump the heels out a little bit. Extend the left leg up into the sky. And then bring it all the way through to the mat next to the left hand. Hands on blocks or floor, right shoelaces on the earth. Become upright for your low lunge. Bring that right hip forward. Little hair adjustment there. Gotta poof it out. And then twisted crescent lunge with right knee extended or on the floor. Just making sure that chest and heart are nice and open. Gently draw the shoulder blades together. Get a little bit taller on those right toes. Left hand back to the block or floor. Moving the blocks aside. We're going to come on our knees, and I'm using a blank for extra cushion for a hero pose. Hands on the lower back, fingertips pointing down. Use the heels of the hands for lower back support. And I'll just open the chest up to the sky. Now this is a little more, it's just a progression, flexing the feet, taking the fingertips to the heels. Or just keep those hands right on the lower back, just getting a nice long extension to the spine. Lift the chin slightly, but don't want to hyperextend the neck. Just whatever feels good. And then into child's pose, just to counterbalance that extension into a flexion in child's pose. And go ahead and place your blanket aside. And downward facing dog for our standing poses. Walk up to the top of the mat. Oh, I believe we're going to do our balance pose here. Alrighty, just coming into mountain pose and shifting a little bit just for camera view. Inhale the arms overhead, take a few deep breaths. And we're going to go into tree pose. So shift your weight to one leg, foot, and then bring one foot into the shin. I'm kind of losing my balance a little bit here. Bring one foot into your shin, into the inner thigh above the knee, never on the knee. And then bring your hands into prayer or extending both arms overhead for our balanced tree pose, our balance pose. Breathe. If you need to hold on to something with one arm, feel free to do that. And then we're going to go into star. So try to transition into star without touching that foot down. And then return. We're going to do the same thing other side. Inhale. Bring the hands into prayer. Other foot now in the shin. Kickstand, shin, or inside the thigh above the knee. And then our hands back to prayer or extended overhead for our branches. And breathe. But into star. Just transition. So you can transition without touching the other foot down. And both feet on the floor now, arms by your side, hands on the hips. Let's circle the hips one direction, circle the hips the other direction. Just going to release those hips from that pose. And we're going to come into chair pose. Feet hip width apart. Inhale the arms overhead and then sit down into your chair. Literally like you're sitting in a chair. Now you can bring your hips parallel to your knees or level with your knees. You can bring them lower than the knees. This is just to create some lower body strength, some heat in the legs. You can cross your arms at the chest, keep the arms extended overhead, arms extended from the chest, just whatever feels for you, good for you. And then if you feel too much intensity, lift the hips a little bit like I am. Lift them even more. As long as you're feeling some heat in the thighs and legs, you'll be fine. And drop the hands down. Now let's go right into Warrior One. So we're going to step our left foot back, extend both arms towards the sky. That left foot's turned in about a 45, right foot at 90 with the right knee above the right ankle. And transitioning to Warrior Two, arms extended by our side, with chest open. Look down, that right middle finger, turning the right palm up, going into reversed warrior, peaceful warrior. Again, you can look up towards that right hand, and then right elbow gently on that right thigh, reach the left arm overhead next to the ear for extended side angle. And my feet could probably be a little more open here, so I get more of that line. And then into downward facing dog. Bring your left foot forward. Extend both arms towards the sky. Warrior One on the other side. Gently bring that right hip forward here. And then transition to Warrior Two. Turn the feet out as needed. Looking down that left middle finger. Breathe. Peaceful warrior. Open the left palm up towards the sky and then bring it behind. Peaceful warrior. Into side angle. Left elbow gently on that left thigh. Right arm extends. Overhead next to the right here. You look up at that right arm and then right hand to the earth, left hand to the earth, downward facing dog. Drop the knees to the earth and then chaturanga all the way down to the mat. For cobra pose, hands underneath the shoulders, draw the elbows gently in and then extend up. Now you might want to put in a little hip press here, so gently press the pelvis bones, the pelvic bones, pubic bone into the mat, into the earth before you lengthen or extend the spine here. It just supports and protects the lower back. And you can hold the pose or extend. And then going into Sphinx pose, elbows underneath the shoulders, fingers open wide. And lengthening through the spine, out through the crown of the head. Release and take the head to your blanket or pillow or floor. I want to do a posture exercise. So palms are turned up towards the sky, and we're going to lift the chest and head off the floor. Gently draw the shoulder blades together and hold just for a moment, and then go back down to the mat. Do that about 10 times. Inhale, exhale, or just breathe. I really want you to focus on the area between the shoulder blades. If we have bad posture, these muscles tend to be weak, and our chest muscles tend to be tight. So this is a great little exercise for strengthening those muscles and stretching the chest muscles. Rest. And slowly roll over for corpse pose, our Shavasana. And I'm going to leave you here Maybe a few little knee hugs, rocks. Just release that extension. Get the spine into flexion again. And arms relaxed by our side, feet open, knees together, or into corpse pose, however you would rest comfortably. And I hope you have a healthy and happy New Year 2023. Hope to see you for more Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga classes. Thank you so much for joining me. Love for you to like and subscribe, and any comments. Would love to hear your comments as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely day.